Welcome to the Georgia Highlands College Math 97 and Math 99 tutorial videos. In this video segment, we'll be answering the question, how do you factor a polynomial with a negative first term? Well, the first step in this process is to determine what the negative GCF is, and we'll walk through that process in a moment. The second step is to express each term as a product with the negative GCF. Thirdly, we'll factor out the negative GCF using what we call reverse distribution. And finally, we should always check our factoring process with multiplication. So let's take a look at an example. If you notice in this particular polynomial, the first term is negative. And so we'd like to factor out that negative so that the first term will be positive. I've gone ahead and set each of my terms up separately to determine the prime factorization for each of those terms. So if we take negative 18x to the fourth y cubed, that could also be written as a product negative 1 times, well, 18 is 9 times 2. 2 is prime, however 9 is not, so we'll call that 3 times 3. Then we have 4 x's being multiplied and 3 y's. Moving to 6x squared y squared, that can be written as a product of 2 times 3. We have 2 x's being multiplied in this one and 2 y's. And finally, negative 15x cubed y can be written as negative 1 times 3 times 5 for negative 15, 3 x's being multiplied in, and 1 y. So, once again, we'll determine and identify all of the factors that they have in common. So it looks like they each have a factor of 3. They each have 2 x's. There's our first x. And our second factor of x. And finally, they each have 1 factor of y, at least. So our regular GCF could be written as 3 times x times y, which is 3x squared y. However, we'd like to take the negative GCF, which is just the opposite, so we have negative 3x squared y, being our negative GCF. The next step is to express each term as a product of that negative GCF and the other factors that are left over. So negative 18x to the fourth is the same thing as negative 3x squared y times, well, we want to keep that first term negative, so we need to multiply that by a positive 6x squared y squared to give us the term negative 18x to the fourth y cubed. Moving along to the next one, we want to make it a product of negative 3x squared y. However, 6x squared y squared is a positive term, so we'd need to multiply with another negative. And that would be times negative 2y to complete that term. And finally, negative 15x cubed y could be written as negative 3x squared y times positive 5x. So we've expressed each of these terms as a product of the negative GCF and the factors that are left over. Our next step is to factor out the negative GCF through reverse distribution. So I bring the negative factor out front, and after dividing that negative monomial out of each term, we're left over with 6x squared y squared, a negative 2y, and a positive 5x. So negative 3x squared y times 6x squared y squared minus 2y plus 5x is the factored form of the polynomial negative 18x to the fourth y cubed plus 6x squared y squared minus 15x cubed x cubed times y. We should always check our work just to make sure that we're safe with what we did. So negative 3x squared y times 6x squared y squared minus 2y plus 5x. So we come back to good old distribution here. And we end up getting negative 3 times 6, which is negative 18. X squared times x squared is x to the fourth. Y times y squared is y cubed. Moving to the next term, negative 3 times negative 2 is positive 6. X squared has no other x to multiply with in that term. Y times y is y squared. Moving to the last one, negative 3 times 5 is negative 15. X squared times x is x cubed. And we just have one y multiplying in to that final term there. So we can safely say now that negative 3x squared y times 6x squared y squared minus 2y plus 5 is the factored form because our polynomials match here. If you have any other questions regarding how to factor out a negative GCF from a polynomial, please contact your Highlands instructor. Thank you for watching.